If you're a Star Wars aficionado, a bit of a Star Wars fan, you want to go for the whole effects. You want it to be more like a lightsaber as in the film. But the problem with that is if you're talking about pixel blades and sound cards and microelectronics, you bash them around for a very short time before you start breaking things. Sound cards are not made generally for combat.
No.
You can do it very lightly, but there is this impasse between the two. And that's something I'm looking to explore, actually, because there is a growing trend for people to be filling in this middle ground.
Right.
Whereas your standard pixel blade, this is a thin-walled, trans-white 1-inch pixel blade, is made with a thin-wall blade. You can make them with thick-wall blades as well.
Yeah.
And that's using the electronics adapted to a 7/8 blade inside a 1-inch hilt. And I'll be quite interested in making one up and seeing if you guys want to borrow it for a bit and flash it around, give it some damage.
I'm happy to do that,
Yeah, if it gets damaged, great, give it back. I'll see where I damaged, and we'll see if I can hone it along the way. So I'd quite like to make you up a thick-wall blade and a basic hilt with a good soundboard in it that I can pad out and protect as much as possible, and have you guys trial it as a Star Wars grey area between combat and sound, and see how it goes. But for enthusiasts, I mean, just to give you a little flash, this is a Corbanth version 2 Dooku. It's quite a recent release.
Right.
Corbanth and 89 Sabers are big producers of lightsaber hilts.
Okay.
It's quite popular, and it's released by Chaos Sabers.
That's a curved hilt. That looks like the Darth Bane hilt.
This is the
Dooku hilt.
This is the Dooku hilt. This is
hilt,
Darth
that's right.
Tyrannus.
Yeah. Right.
Cannot be decided.
Oh, there's no mistaking that, is there?
You can see that white flash as it came out.
Yeah.
So it leads with the white flash. You've got your standard clash on flash, or flash on clash.
Flash on clash.
These are blaster bolt deflects. I don't know if you can see them. So just swinging it around, somebody's shooting you with a blaster. Also, I can't remember. The card's slightly different between Profi and CFX, but there we go. We can go. Oh. There. That's blade locker.
Oh, that's really cool. So is that something running up the middle of that blade then? Is that a...
Yeah, what you've got, if I can show you, what it is a... Inside that blade is this pixel strip. This is a WS2812B, for want of a nice expression.
Mm-hmm.
These are pixel strips, generally available from China on eBay.
Right.
Though you can get them on Amazon as well. The maximum length that you use in the blades is 144, which is the strips they tend to come in. This is actually a 2-meter strip.
Right.
And what you do is it would stick back to back, so you get a double side, and then they get soldered into a hilt side PCB. You've got a small printed circuit board that you put the live negative and data line. They cross, because you've got 2 sets of strips. They cross through each other, solder into the pad, and you get, that's the PCB there.
All right. Okay, yeah.
So that's the actual side facing the saber, and then on the other side you got all the solder. You then have to use a generous amount of hot glue on the inside to hold it in place and make sure the contacts aren't touching each other.
No, not hot glue. Yeah. Oh no.
Big old splodge of it in there. You then feed that pixel line into a foam tube, which just helps to diffuse it. Well, no, first I wrap it in heat shrink. I put it in a 1-inch wide heat shrink, hot air gun it, so it shrinks to pixel blade. That gives it a nice stiffness as well, by the way, so it doesn't buckle as you're trying to feed it through. It then goes into a foam tube. That then goes into a diffusion tube, which is a very thin version of the outer tube. And then the whole thing goes into the outer tube, so you get that.
Oh wow.
solid tube like that.
That really
Um,
must contribute to the color because it sounds like you've got a lot of diffusion going on there.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, without the diffusion, you get an effect that's called corn cobbing, and you can actually see individual dots of light.
Yep.
So the growth and retraction, it kind of ruins the magical effect of it. If I just try see if I can change font with this. Um, just try.
Uh-oh. Now's not the time for it to fail, Nick.
No? I don't know if you see the different
Wow.
colours.
Yeah, I can see it rainbowing out. Look like a unicorn
So
tail.
that's just showcasing the different colours because it's an RGB LED strip. Each of the LEDs is a red, green, blue,
Right.
and it's mixing those colours together. So you can then have any
That is
colour you want.
really bright too. So
Yeah,
really-
you're getting a bit of confusion with the camera. It's in real life, it isn't maybe as fuzzy as this.
No, I understand that, but I mean honestly, without the idea that the camera may be making it, making it more bloomy. However, that's really bright, and I could see why because there's LEDs straight up all the way to the hilt with diffusion. So I guess my next question would be, I mean, I get that the more electronics you put into a combat saber, the more there is to go wrong, which is my
Exactly.
philosophy. But would you,
Exactly.
if you were to do just a LED thing like that, would that be recommended without your soundboard and all your Dooku talking and all that? Would that be recommended for combat? Do you think that's something viable?
There are differences of opinion. The general mindset that I can see is that you shouldn't use pixel blades for combat because
Right.
eventually, if you hit them hard enough, you'll kill at the point of impact. You'll kill that particular pixel, and then you'll have a dead spot.
Yeah.
In the thing, which is why I'd like to experiment with using the thick-walled blades. So they should be able to take. Obviously, if you're pounding on it like Luke about to take Vader's hand off, then you are going to damage it, whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're, having a fair old bit of sparring and not going completely nuts, I don't see why you can't have a thick-walled saber with a pixel blade
Yeah.
survive quite well. Also, if you're using a chassis, and by chassis I mean like a made container of components inside the hilt, it tends to keep everything insulated.
Yeah.
By chassis, I mean I've got a couple of things like this. I've got a 3D printer over there.
Okay.
This is the chassis I built for the Dooku.
Okay.
So the rechargeable 18650 battery goes in there, and then the sound card sits on the top. It keeps everything nicely spaced out.
Yeah.
Here's another chassis. This is one I made for an MHS hilt, and that's literally for recharge port and battery with cabling down the side.
Okay.
So this is for a stunt saber.
Right.
This one. But with these, if done properly and then secured well enough in place, there's more and more reason why it should be safe enough to do some amount of dueling with.
Well, I think that honestly, if you're not being too rambunctious with it, is that something like that. If you increase the wall thickness, you might be able to get away with it in regular dueling, or even just choreography dueling. That's something that might be viable. But however, we get a bit, as we know and trust each other, and we've all got the protective equipment. We get a bit carried away at times, not all the time, but at times.
Yeah,
so that might be an expensive risk, not worth taking.
No, I completely agree with that. Getting carried away. I've had black eyes from fights in silver sabers.
Yeah.
And things got a little bit too passionate in the moment. Shall we say?
We had one of our guys in our little tournament for Sport Relief we did this year. We had one guy. He had the Ultra Sabers mid-grade blade,
right,
which is LSOT qualified. So it's the you know what I mean. And he managed to break it over somebody's mask. I couldn't believe he did that, but that was an old blade anyway, so wasn't like that, but he probably got carried away and it went straight over his helmet and bam, straight in half.
Wow.
Oh my God, it was hilarious. Nobody was hurt, thankfully, but man, it was funny.